right, I think we're good to get started now. So first of all, thank you all for joining. So this month's Campfire session is on the resource request feature, which was recently released in the 1.75 release just earlier this month. Yep. So there's me. I'm a part of the customer success team, involved with a lot of the customer support and the training videos, health checks, onboardings, implementations, and so on. So that's where you might know me from. So onto the agenda for today's session. We're talking about the resource request feature. So this is a new object that has been added to mission control, and it sits under the project object. And it allows project managers to be able to submit requests for a specific type of resource they're looking to assign on their project. So these requests are sort of meant to be received and managed centrally by a resource manager. So in smaller organizations, you might find that project managers themselves are responsible for figuring out who to assign to the project. So doing their own resource management. So they'd have to find the right person, and they'd use tools like the reassignment wizard, they'd use tools like the auto assignment wizard, the resource assignment wizard, and so on. Whereas in larger organizations, where there's a larger pool of resources, this part of resource assignment and resource management is handed off to a separate resource manager. So rather than the project manager themselves looking to find the resource to assign, they submit a request, and that gets handled by the resource manager, who then does that part of looking to find the right resource to assign. So the resource request feature, it makes it easier. It's sort of like a centralized hub where you can access all of the resource requests and then action them, assign them to the different projects that are coming through. So these requests that are submitted by the project managers, the resource manager can use the component, this new component, to find suitable resources to assign for that request. And this is done through a search function, which allows you to assign resources based on their availability, their skill set, the team membership, and their charge rates. So once the appropriate resource is found, they can either be assigned to the project, either by generating role forecast, or you could also transfer the ownership across the project. So you could replace somebody that's already assigned with this new role. This is particularly helpful if you're using something like placeholder roles, and let's say you've cloned from a template, you need a consultant here. A request has been submitted for a consultant, and then that gets actioned on, which then gets replaced throughout the project level through that ownership transfer process within the resource request component. So we'll go through that demo in a bit. Before we do that, we'll go through some of the prerequisites and the recommended settings. So because this feature uses the role forecast and the role allocation records, we recommend enabling the role allocation automation settings to be able to access this feature. So I'll show you where you can access that. It's a one-time thing that you just set up once and then set and forget. And then there's some settings that you can that we recommend enabling on the role record for your roles. So on the role record, there's a new section which allows you to. So this tab, the resource request tab, is available on the resource planner. Again, that's to be able to access that, you need to have the role allocation automation settings enabled. And to be able to access the resource request tab itself, you might be familiar with a lot of the view X tab field on the role records, where you can hide different tabs from users. So there's a checkbox there that allows you to hide or show to that role, that tab. And so you can manage that from the role records. Now, we also recommend setting up the function as well as the charge rate on the role record. And charge rate would basically be the affordability of that resource, whether it's low, medium, or high, and that can be used in the decision-making process. We also recommend assigning skills and teams to the roles, so that can be used as a search criteria when you're looking to assign the resources. So let's jump in, and just before we go to the demo, I'd like to remind that we have the Q&A option available for you to put through any questions. So if there's any questions, any issues, just let me know through that Q&A option. and I'd be happy to answer them as I go along. All right, so let me just switch over to my browser. And let's get started. Okay, so I'm on the Mission Control console here under the Mission Control tab. So we'll go to the recommended and prerequisites first. So under the control pad, again, this is something your admin might have access to if you don't see it. Under the control pad, you've got the role allocation automation settings. So you'll want to make sure the auto-generate role allocation record checkbox is true so that it generates the role allocation records. Make sure you set a frequency there. Uh, uh, and you can set a batch size here. So once you've done that, you can click Save. We have separate resources and a Campfire session that goes through in more detail the role allocation functionality. So I'd recommend having a look at that. It's available on our website under the Campfire resources. All right, so you'll make sure the setting is set up here. And once you go into the management pad, so this is where you can access the resource planner. So you can access it from here, or you can use the app launcher in the top left here to look for the resource planner. So I've got a few different versions, some classic, some lightning, I think. So any of them works, whichever one works for you. So I've got the resource planner here. You might be familiar with the overview and the planner tabs. The one we're focusing on today is the resource request. And so that's how you can access the resource request. But before we get here, we also want to go through the settings we recommend setting up on the role record. So you can determine the different search criteria that's specified over here, as well as control who can see this tab in the first place. So let's go ahead and open up the roles tab. So under the roles tab here, I've got the list of all the mission control roles in my org. So I'll just open up mine over here. And if I edit this record, on the edit page here, there's a new section that has been added in. It's called the resource planner settings, and that's where you can go to make changes on the individual roles record. So if I just scroll down, so I've got this new section here. It's letting me know what the default tab is. So if I'm frequently using the resource request tab, I can set that as my default. I can also choose to hide certain tabs that I'm not supposed to be using or should have access to. Along with this, I've got a field here called charge level, which indicates the affordability of this role. And so low, medium, and high, those are your options. And these are three values that are currently available, and these map over to a image within the resource request that indicates the role's charge level. So we don't recommend updating this here. The other thing you will want to update is the function. So the function identifies this person's core responsibility. So I've got a few functions here that are available by default, as well as a few that I've added of my own. If you're not using any one of these, or you'd like to add a few more or update existing ones, that can be done through the value sets within setup. So again, this is something your system admin would do, and that can be done by going into setup and searching for pick list value sets. So there we go. So if I go here, I've got this one called function. I can click into it, and there'll be a new section called values. So from here, I've got the project manager, consultant, developer, all of these that are there, and I can choose to deactivate some of them that I'm not using. I can add new ones by clicking this new button here and adding each one on a new line. So this will be reflected across wherever this field is used, and you can then come back to your role record and update it to the correct function. Lastly, we recommend assigning teams and skills to your roles, and that can be done in a few different ways. Again, we have a separate resource, a training video that is available on our website that you can have a look at. But in this instance, you can do it from the role record directly. So you've got a section on team assignment and a section on skill assignment. So we recommend assigning teams that define the different functions this person does, for example, or what part, if they're part of a specific if they're located in a specific region, maybe you need a resource that is part of a specific region. So I've got myself set up as part of the AU team. So you can do that for state-based or different countries, based on different countries. That'll make it easier for you to find the right resource to assign. So whatever your criteria is that you use to determine who to assign, that's something you can set up as a team here. Similarly, I've got skills here, so I've got different skills, different certifications that I've assigned myself here. I've even set up the proficiency and enjoyment factor, as that is also surfaced inside of the resource request component. Um, Again, so that's how you can, that's the things that we recommend updating. And just lastly, before we go into the resource request component itself, another place where you can update those tabs for the resource planner is via this new list view called resource planner. So role permissions resource planner. So you'll see something similar, except you won't have a charge level field. You might just need to add that in. But you've got these checkboxes here where you can do a mass update for multiple people. So if not everyone is supposed to be using the resource request, it's mainly for the managers or a resource manager specifically. You can check that box for them. So I've got it set for Chris, Colin, myself, and Victor here. Um, so you can make these updates here. I've got the charge levels set up here, and now I can go on into the resource request component itself. So let's close this out. So if I just bring this up here, so this is my component. I'll just do a quick refresh here, and while that's refreshing, we'll go through the project that I have here. So now let's walk through this project from the perspective of a project manager. So Victor, he's the owner of this project. He's got a gold implementation coming up for mission control. And what he's done is he's cloned from a project template. And because he's cloned from a project template, he had the placeholder role set up. He had all of the hours, all of the dates set up. And so you'll see that he's got the different actions in here. The milestone owner set up, the action owners are set up. So that's indicating to him what kind of resource is required. And based off of that, he can then go off to create or submit a resource request for the resource manager to action on. So I've got placeholder consultant here, placeholder customer support, placeholder trainer. So these are the types of different resources that I need on this project. So what Victor can do is he can create a resource request because he wants to assign people to this project. So he can go into the related tab, and there's a new related list called resource request. So if you don't see this here, you might just want to make sure it's added to your page layout. So I've actually already built two resource requests, but what I'll do is I'll just create one more. And just going back to the project here, I know that I'll just have a look at the amount of hours that I need for the placeholder consultant. So just looking at these hours here, that comes up to about 70 hours in total for the placeholder consultant. And just looking at the dates here, so starting on the 30th of June and ending on 12th of August. So if I go back in here, resource request, and click new. So this is the window you'll want to make sure that you fill out all the correct details here. So requested by, that's the person who is requesting this, and Victor is the project manager, so I'll just put Victor's name in there. The function, I've set up my function to include consultant, so I'll just set that as the function that I need here. And for the reason for the request is I'm working on a large implementation of Salesforce and mission control. I need someone who has strong implementation skills, and ideally they'd be great at flows. Yeah, so there we go. So that's a description of the type of resource that I'm looking for. And so the resource manager can now then look at that and then determine who is the right person to assign. So I go ahead and look at the start date, which was the 30th of June, and the end date was the 12th of August. So just put that there. So you can choose to either update the working days field or set the end date field. Whichever one you do, it's going to populate the other. So in this case, it's going to update the working days here. You can also set the billable hours and non-billable hours. For now, I'll say I need 70 hours billable and I need 10 hours non-billable, just based off of what I know, based on the amount of hours set up on the action. In terms of the billable percentage or non-billable percentage, so you either specify the hours or the percentage. So you need this person for 50% of their billable time. That's what you would set here. And then you can just undo the billable hours there. So just make sure whichever one you're doing for billable or non-billable, just make sure you fill in one or the other, not both of them. So just undo this here, put this back to 70 because I know the hours. So that's up to 80 hours in this time frame. And then this new section, this request assignment section, this gets updated automatically. So the resource assigned is when someone has been assigned, when it's been declined, and why it's been declined. So if it does get declined, you can come back in here to see if it was declined or not and what the reason was, so that you can then communicate with the resource manager to figure out what needs to be done. Yep, so I think we're all set here. I'll just go ahead and save, and we'll now go to the resource request component from the perspective of the resource request manager. So I go here, I'll just do a refresh and go into the resource request tab. And now I've got these, on the left-hand side, I've got these resource requests that are grouped by the project name. So I've got the Ember project, the one that I just added the resource request for a consultant. And then I've got two more for mission control releases that I need on those projects. So you'll see the different resource requests grouped by the project. And then next to each request, you've got a few icons that you can interact with. So the first is the edit icon. So if you need to make any changes directly, so if you need to decline it, for example, and you need to provide a description, you can do that here. You can also use this more details icon or view icon. So if you click that, it's going to fill in the details on this right-hand side here. So then you can then go on to assigning someone. Then you've got the chatter icon. So if you need to communicate with this person to figure out what more information you need to be able to assign someone, or maybe there's a compromise you need to make, maybe someone, you're not able to find someone that matches all of the requirements, so you need to work out what is more important for the project manager. So you can just start talking to them here. So you can start by normal chatter usage of Victor, could you please confirm if our charge rate is okay? And then, once that's done, you'll get a notification. You'll get you can come back here, see the notes here, see the chatter information here, and then work on that. So right now it's adding the chatter to the resource request record itself, but you can do that on the project itself as well. And then lastly, you've got the delete icon. So just use that to delete a resource request that is not needed anymore. All right, so let's start by actioning on these resource requests here. So I've just filled in the details over here by clicking that view icon. So it's letting me know what function is needed. So that's consultant, who it's requested by, what project it's for, and what the reason is for the request. So I can see that I need someone who is good at implementing Salesforce mission control. So they need to be good at, I might look to see if they have the relevant certifications. I also need someone who has strong implementation or configuration skills, and ideally they'd be creative flow. So that's another skill that I know that I've added in my system that I can search for. So function itself will get auto-populated here, and that's based off what you have mentioned or selected over there. And then if you need to select another function or multiple other functions, you can change that from there. For now, we'll actually use the teams and skills. So I've got a question here from Zelia. So can you change the high level and medium cost with an example of a career level? So the values themselves, you only have three options: high, medium, and low. And that's gonna become a bit more apparent once I show you some examples of what the resource looks like. Because it's an image which shows you the affordability of the resource. So you could change the name itself of the field to say career level, but the actual values of high, low, and medium, that's probably something you'll want to stick with. You could use another field to capture that. So yeah. So hopefully that answers your question there, Zelia. All right. So okay, thank you. So we'll actually filter it based on teams and skills. And you'll see that the start and end date, as well as the billable and non-billable hours have been filled in here based on whatever was specified there. So now all I need to do is just based off of this description here, I need to look up the appropriate team or skill that I know. So I know that there's a specific consultants team that I have that I can search up here. And I can add multiple teams if I want to do that. I'll also look for skills. So I need someone who has strong configuration skills, as well as the mission control or Let me just correct that spelling there. So someone who has the mission control implementation expert certification. If there's anything else that I see here, I might add them in. No. Oh, flows. Yes, I forgot about that. So flows. So with the teams, I've just put in one there. So this really doesn't apply here. But if I had multiple, like in the case of skills, I can choose to specify and operator or the or operator. So in the instance of and, it's only going to show me resources that have these specific skills. Whereas if I were to choose or, it's going to show me resources that have at least one of these skills. So I might have a larger pool of resources to work with. So depending on the situation, maybe I don't need someone to have all of these skills. Maybe most of them I might want to use or. Whereas in the case of and, I might want to use that when I need to have someone, I need to assign someone who has all of these skills. So for now, let's stick with or. And then you've got all filters on the skill proficiencies as well as the enjoyment factor. So the skill proficiency, you've got a few options to select. So you can say greater than or equal to. That's the one I would use most frequently. And I might say I need someone who has at least 5 or more on these skills. And then enjoyment factor. So skill proficiencies that goes up to 10, and enjoyment factor that goes up to 3. So you can specify the appropriate figures accordingly. So let's go ahead and click search here. And that's going to show me a list of roles in my org that match that criteria. So as I go through these cards here, so I've got this Arthur, his image, his title, his function, and this is the charge rate. So these are the 3 values, and that's why it's restricted to those 3 specific values of high, medium, and low. This indicates it's a medium affordability of this resource. Yeah, so I've got this capacity information that's letting me know in the time frame that I had selected what their capacity looks like. So I've got a capacity of 256. I've got allocations here which indicate 122 hours. So that is based off of actions right now, but you are able to update this. So if I were to go into the resource planner settings, there's a setting called under the resource request setting, existing allocation source. So there's 4 options here, similar to what you've seen on the resource planner before. So if this were forecast, it's going to bring up the allocation based on the role forecast records. If it was actions, it was going to show based off of the actions that are assigned to this person. If it's both forecast wins, it's gonna choose either one, whichever is available on the project. And in the instance where both of them are available, forecast as well as actions, it's going to prefer or it's going to give priority to the forecasts. Similarly, with both action wins, if a project has both of them, it's gonna prioritize actions. Whereas a project, if it only has forecast, it's going to show forecast. Whereas a project that only has actions, it's going to show actions. And this is the default that is there out of the box. So let's stick with that. So we have our capacity for this person in that time frame, what their allocation looks like, and what their availability looks like. So that is just the difference in these 2 figures, and that's letting me know I know that I need someone here for 80 hours here, and based off that I can see that this is a good resource to assign just based off their availability and their affordability. I might want to look at their team assignments as well as their skill assignments. So I can see R3 is actually a pretty good resource because he's part of the consultants team and he's got all of the skills that I'm looking for. He's got the 8 and 7 as the proficiency on the relevant skills as well as the enjoyment factors set out. So he might be a good resource to assign, but I might not. I might still want to look at other resources just in case. So what I'll do is I'll just check this box here as a way to narrow down the search results. So I've got a few more to go through. So I've got Chris here. He's got a high charge rate, but he has enough availability. He's part of the consultant team, but he's not he doesn't have the implementation expert skill. Similarly, Colin here doesn't have enough availability. He has a high charge rate, and he doesn't have the implementation expert. Lexi is just flat out booked, so probably not someone a good resource to assign here. And then there's me. I might want to look at this a bit more closely because I've got the capacity, I've got the affordability, I've got the team assignment, except for the certification. But what I can do is you'll see that I have to constantly scroll back and forth to compare these 2. So what I can do is I can check the ones that I want to compare, the ones that I'm interested in, using that checkbox. And then there's a compare button that I can use. So that narrows down the search results for anyone, the ones that you might be interested in. If you want to go back to seeing all of them, you can just click view all. if you want to use the role search function, you can just look up the name of the person. If you have someone in mind, you can look them up directly. So just put in the name, press enter, and that's gonna narrow down the search results. Yeah, so for me, it looks like Arthur is the right person to assign here. He checks all of the boxes, and I can click select, and that's going to load that up for me, where I can then assign the assign. So there's two things I can do here. I can create role forecast records optionally, and I can also transfer the assignment to that project. Again, that's optional, so I can do either one of them or both of them. So in this role forecast section here, it's filling in all the details here. I can say right here that I want to set on the role forecast. It's letting me know how many hours that I had set here based on the request. And again, you can update this from here if you need to. And then this last section here is on how many role forecast records do you need. Normally, when you use the manage forecast component, it creates one role forecast record. But in this, you have the option to either create one role forecast record for the full time frame, or one per week for every week within that time frame, or one per month for every month within that time frame. This is actually helpful in the assignment manager feature, and that's going to be covered off in our next Campfire session, so I'd recommend tuning in for that as well. So you can, if you don't want to create role forecast records, you can just remove the hours or the percentage value that you've set here. So just make sure it's all of these four are blank, and that's not going to create the role forecast record. Now I just want the action record or whatever allocation is on the project to be updated, and that's what I'll do here. So ownership reassignment, I know that I'm replacing for the consultant role, and because I had set the placeholder consultant, that's what I'm going to look up. And every instance of that placeholder consultant will now be replaced with this new role. So I'll go ahead and click save. So now I'll only expect the actions and milestones and so on to be updated, no role forecast records. So we'll just go back and have a look at what that looks like. So go back to here and go back to the project. And now we'll see that the milestones, there's no more instance of a placeholder consultant. It's just the action, the milestone owner and action owner has been allocated to Arthur. So we've got Arthur assigned to this project now, and he'll see this come through in his timesheet and action pad and whatever views that he uses to see the actions that are assigned to him, and he can start working on that. And if I were to go into the related here, look at the consultant, I will see that Arthur has been assigned here. That has been updated. So now back to it. So these are actually, so the customer success and trainer resource requests, these are actually resource requests that I was looking at before. And what's helpful over here is the fact that previous searches or criteria that you've looked for on the specific skill or on this specific request, those are remembered. So on this skill, I needed someone who has the Admin Tool 1 certification, who has configuration skill, as well as the implementation expert skill, and they're part of the customer success team. So all of that's been remembered. So let's say you were working on something, you weren't able to assign someone, then you come back at another time, it's going to remember the last used criteria for the teams and skills. So in this case, I need someone, the customer is going to be having a lot of custom config, and they need a technical resource for troubleshooting. And that's why I'm pulling in someone from the customer success team here. So what I'll do is I'll actually remove the function because that's going to narrow down my search results. I'll just stick with, because I might have a resource that doesn't have the customer success function, but they're still part of the customer success team. They just don't actively work within it. So that's why I'll just make it so easy for me to find more resources here. So the start and end date's put in. I've got 20 hours there, and got the skill set up right. The main difference between master team and teams is that if every role can have one master team. So if you're looking for someone part of a specific master team, you can put that criteria in there. Or if you're just looking for general membership of a specific team, you can do that here. So let's go ahead and do search there. And I've got a few resources to look through. So right away, I can see that Colin is fully booked out. Lexi is fully booked out. So there's only 3 people that I want to look at, which is Karen, myself, and Roberto. So I'll just do that compare feature again. And now I've got these that I can quickly look at. So all 3 have the same affordability. They So it looks like Karen might not be available because I need someone for 20 hours and she's only available for 7 hours. And that leaves us with myself and Roberto. I can see that I'm part of the customers, both of us are part of the customer success team. And in terms of skills, I don't have the implementation. So it seems like Roberto is the right choice here. So I'll go ahead and assign Roberto here. Again, I don't want any role forecast records created. And what I can do is I can assign him to that action. So this is going to be the customer success placeholder role, and there it is. So save. Um, so you might have a question where when might you want to use that role forecast option, and that's when you're looking to assign someone who is where you might not have actions created just yet, and so that's some possible work that's coming down the line that you might want to track as a role forecast record, and then you can then convert it into an action through a feature that we have, or you can create an action by yourself. So let's go ahead and go into the search criteria. You'll notice that because I clicked I left the trainer function there, it only showed me one specific role. But if I were to click search here, now it's going to show me a larger pool of resources, and that's because it's narrowing it down to specific function. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking to play around with these filters. So in this case, I've got, just close this out. In this case, I've got a few more roles to look at. And I need someone who is, let's just go to the skill set, admin 201, English, MC product expert training. So, okay, that's all great. So if I go here, let's have a look here. So Colin has all of the skills and is part of the correct team. He has the availability, but he has a high charge rate. So let's see if we can find someone with a lower charge rate. Then it's probably not a good one to assign, doesn't have the right skills. Jenna might be good. Maybe Lexi, she doesn't have the skill assigned over there. I'm probably not a good resource to assign. So let's narrow down these and have a look here. So based off of these, I think that Jenna is the right one to assign. She's got all the skills. She's got the availability. So I need someone here for 20 hours. That's great. Oh, collapse the wrong one. So that's great. All the right skills and the affordability is low, so lower than what Colin has here. So that's great. I can go ahead and select Jenna over there. So I'll go ahead and replace this with the trainer because that is the request. That's a function that the request came through for. So placeholder trainer, save. Now you notice that I left the forecast details on, and that means I'll see a forecast record created. So if I go back to the project, I'll see that the report has been assigned for the customer success action and milestone. Jenna has been assigned to the training milestone and actions. And for Jenna specifically, we should also see role forecast records. So there we go. So that's come through now. And this works similar to how you would normally create it from the manage forecast component, except you had all the details filled in. You wouldn't need to go in again to do that. And then this information will then be surfaced inside of the resource planner if you're looking at forecast records. Yeah. So that is the resource request feature. Let me know if you have any questions. Just bring this up here. Oops. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. To use the forecast planner, you will need to have the project created. So this question here, if I go here, so just confirming the forecast planner, that is the, I think you might be referring to the resource planner there. Yes, to be able to create the resource request itself, you need to have the project in place. You wouldn't be able to create a resource request without the project. And if you were, it wouldn't work essentially. So if I were to go here, create new, you'll see that the project is required. So without the project, you can't create a resource request. And when that resource request has been created, that has been created, it will be surfaced inside the resource planner. And then as you go on to create role forecast records, that will then be surfaced inside of the resource planner itself. So for example, in the overview and the planner tab, you'll be able to see those forecast records come through. So I've got another question here. Can we raise requests on an opportunity? Not at this time. We It only supports it on the project, but that's certainly something I can bring up with the product team. And in terms of doing that, that would mean it would only create role forecast records because we don't really have actions on the or milestones or projects or contributors on the opportunity. That ownership transfer feature. So just bring that here, search. So let's find someone here with the specific team. So if I were to select this, in this section, this transfers the ownership to between the project, the phase, the milestone, the action, the contributor checklist item. All of that transfers it on the project layers. So this wouldn't be available over there. It would just this B section, this role forecast section, but I can definitely bring this up with the product team. Yeah. So I've got one more. So I've got three people rooting for this. So that's great. Awesome to hear that. I will let the product team know that you all have requested for this, and we'll go from there. So just this would be ideal. So we could have a resource request on our opportunity, which can then be converted to a role forecast when approved. Okay, yep, sounds good. Yep, I will let the product team know about all of this. Thank you for that. Thank you for the feedback. Let me know if there's any other questions, any other requests. All right, there's something else. Oh, yeah, good. All right, well, I'll let you all go. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us by support. We have a lot of resources available. So user guide, training videos, knowledge base, learning portal, release notes, and of course our support as well. Hope you all have a good one. And yeah, see you in the next one then. Bye for now.